thank you in regards to promoting our program and our network and giving us solid funding to move this program forward to help law enforcement. Thank you to Commissioner Rosado for her stewardship at DCJS. Thank you to Mayor Sheen and the City of Albany, Chief Hawkins, Chief Bacciuello for assisting us as we've did all the work here downstairs. And most importantly, thank you to my board, who represents all of our local law enforcement agencies, police departments, sheriff's departments, DAs, probation, corrections, for supporting us as we have grown this center and this mission, not only here at the Capital Region Center, but at all of our centers across the state. I think to give some background on what we have here for the Crime Analysis Center. So I'm a retired police captain from Troy PD. I retired back in 2008, so literally 15 years ago. I did quite a bit of work in investigations, did about 10 years in investigations. I sit in amazement for the last 12 plus years doing this work, recognizing what we are able to do for local law enforcement in furthering investigations. Certainly we talk an awful lot about crime gun intelligence and crime gun investigations and shootings and homicides, and we support that work quite a bit. But we also support other Part 1 crime, burglaries, larcenies, motor vehicle thefts, theft from motor vehicle cases, because what we have here in the Capital Region is relatively unique with our 4 large cities, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, Saratoga Springs, and the multitude of smaller agencies and big towns such as Colony that have a bunch of transient crime. The Crime Analysis Center, to support of the state, is truly a hub of information and intelligence to support local law enforcement as they work on these investigations. In my day, I might have thought too much about the fact that if there was a crime occurring in my city, I probably knew I could probably figure out who the individual was involved, and he very well could have been from my city, and he's only acting within my city. But what we come to realize from sitting in this position for the last 13 years is it's very transient. And although I certainly knew it was transient, didn't realize how transient it was. One of the first investigations that I look back as we did this center, we started back in 2009, was a case in 2011 or 12, when we learned of a few burglaries that happened in southern Albany County. It was a cinder block through a commercial retail store, convenience store, and the cigarettes are taken. We had 3 burglaries in the course of a month. And as a center, somewhat less mature than we are now, we put a quick bulletin out for our local agencies and just said, hey, just so you guys know, we have these 3 burglaries that appear to be related. By putting out an email, we got response back from 12 different agencies having that same pattern within their community in the course of the last 4 months. In addition, we learned a bunch of information from those 12 different agencies. One had a photograph of the suspect. Another had a partial picture of the vehicle involved, including a partial plate. Another had a description or realized that during the course of the commission of the vehicle leaving the scene of the storefront, they struck a gas pump as they left. All that information came back to the center. Investigators do all their work. They share more information back with us. We do a little work from our side as well. We have analysts that are pretty good at identifying cars. The vehicle that was captured, you could tell what kind of year it was or what kind of vehicle it was, but you couldn't really knock down exactly what year it was, what model it was. The analyst was able to look at the headrest and identify the year, make, and model based on some other features on the vehicle. And we identified the car. We then started looking at the gas pump issue and started looking at various vehicles that matched that description that may have been active during the time of a couple of those events. And we found a vehicle that kind of matched. And we looked at the individual who's responsible related to that vehicle, and he was suspect in several burglaries previously. Matched it to the photograph, it matched. Did a little more homework on the car, and ironically, he reported that he struck a gas pump here in the Albany region, when in fact he struck a gas pump at one of the burglaries down in, I think it was southern Columbia County. My point is, 14 or 15 different events, 12 or 13 different agencies, all siloed in their own investigation. But as a result of that work, we were able to put those agencies together and let them move as a resource. We were the resource tool that moved that investigation along. So from that time, we've continued to grow, here both at the Capital Region Center as well as our other 9 centers across the state to support local law enforcement. So from the Crime Analysis Center perspective as a director, we are deeply appreciative of our partnerships with all of our partners, our board, our law enforcement agencies, and especially thankful to the state for all the support that we've gotten from our Commissioner Rosado as well. So thank you all very, very much.
All right. You heard it here. This is what we're doing in this facility, a facility that we expanded to make sure that they had all the capability they need. So I want to thank John, the director of the Capital Region Crime Analysis Center, John Rager, and also for what you've done across the state. I mean, this is one center here in the Capital Region. We're doing this all over New York. And we put more money behind this, we put more resources, the technology, because we need to keep working together from the local, county, state, and federal level to make sure that we are united in our effort to stop criminals from perpetrating crimes on our citizens. That's why we're here. That's why we have a responsibility as leaders to protect our public, and that has been my #1 priority since I became the governor. I want to recognize some of our leaders who are here today. We have Kathy Sheehan, who's going to close out for us, the mayor of Albany. Thank you for being so engaged in these efforts to protect the people of our communities. And our county executive, Dan McCoy, has joined us. Good to see you again, Dan. Our Commissioner Rosanna Rosado is here, the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services. A great partner, a true leader at a time when we need you. Major Dennis Schrager, the Troop Commander for the New York State Police, Troop G. Andrew Munson, Lead Crime Analyst from the Analysis Center. We have our local DAs, sheriffs, law enforcement. We have Mayor Gary McCarthy and Mayor Patrick Madden. Gary's from Schenectady. Mayor Madden is from Troy, two places I frequent often when I'm not in Albany, Mayor. I do visit the other communities as well. Sorry about that. I also get up to Saratoga quite a bit, too. We also have our district attorneys, and I thank our district attorneys for really being on the front line. And we're going to continue, you'll hear in my remarks, investing in your work as well, because I know it's been tough. You've been shorthanded, and we want to make sure that you have what you need to be successful. David Soares from Albany. If you want to raise your hands, everybody who's here with David Soares. DA Tony Jordan from Washington County and the President of the District Attorneys Association. Thank you, Tony. Rob Carney from Schenectady, Karen Hagan from Saratoga, and Mary Pat Donnelly from Rensselaer. And I hope I didn't leave anybody off this list, but it's our sheriffs, it's our DAs, it's our chiefs of police, and I want to thank also the leaders of our various governments who put them to work doing this and supporting them as well. So here we are. You heard about something we're very proud of, our Capital Region Crime Analysis Center. Before we came here, I had a chance to meet with the Board of Directors to tell them my priorities and how we work together to achieve our collective objective to protect the people of this state. And, you know, we think about what we're doing here in New York, but you can't wake up without hearing about another horrific crime, the mass shootings in California, which are so abhorrent and seem so unrelenting. People are just getting so exhausted of having to read about another mass shooting. I think I heard that there were 38 mass shootings this year alone. We're not even out of this month. 38 mass shootings in the United States of America, and it has to stop. And we felt the pain deeply with what happened in Buffalo, and tracing back, this was an individual radicalized in the southern part of our state, southern tier, traveled to Buffalo, so people are not just committing crimes in their own communities. And whether it's that or it's the everyday street crime where we're losing people, it's too much. And we're making a difference. You know, I want to continue thanking those on the front lines for what you do, but, you know, our hearts are broken. Our country is being torn apart by gun violence. And 18 lives lost in 3 days. These are moms and dads and brothers and sisters. And, you know, it's just something we have to end, this epidemic of shootings in this country. And that's why we're working so hard here in New York. As I just mentioned, I toured this facility. The technology is extraordinary. What we're going to be able to do, like never before, with a $500,000 investment to give them what they need here. It's 4 times the size, double the staff of what it had been before I became governor, because I said this is where we invest our money, in the people who are solving crimes and preventing crimes ultimately. I got a chance to check out the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, which is a mouthful, but it's a supercomputer. And what this does is, like, you can trace ballistic evidence from bullet casings and see if the gun was used in crimes anywhere in the country. I mean, that is data that is helpful to stop the next crime. And it used to take a month to be able to trace this. A month. You know how much time is lost? You know how many more crimes are committed in a month with someone who's on a rampage and has no remorse? It's just going to go to victim and victim and victim. We can now do that analysis in 24 hours. So look at the prevention opportunities we have here with that technology and the trained men and women who work here. So we have That also has a 99.6% accuracy ratings. I'll take that any day of the week. Those are good numbers. And we're proud to have the opportunity to use that technology here. So we all know that we've been laser focused at the state level, the rising crime. Some of it pandemic-driven. I guess sociologists will have, not sociologists. Anybody can look at it. Everybody's welcome to analyze it. We have to figure out what happened during the pandemic and when the crime rates were declining in our cities and our rural areas and our suburban areas. It was going down. The pandemic somehow unleashed human behavior that we've not seen the likes of in many, many years. So as the pandemic is ending, although we still lost 20 lives yesterday alone, 4,000 cases. It's not quite over, but the real effects seem to be abating in terms of the isolation and the disruption of everyday lives that may have fed some of this. I don't know. I don't have the analysis. But we have been working nonstop to find crime-fighting strategies that actually work. So to help our law enforcement, we banned ghost guns. Ghost guns, people manufacturing a gun that they can order online, have it shipped to their house, sit at their dining room table and put together a gun that actually can be lethal and go out and kill somebody, undetected. We banned them here in the state of New York. We expanded bail eligibility for gun crimes, had to reset this, say, you're committing crimes with guns, you are no longer ineligible for bail, you will have bail eligibility, which is important. We have tougher prosecutions of gun trafficking. We also mandated the use of the red flag law, an underused tool a lot of people didn't know much about, but my God, the effect has been extraordinary. We've had over 5,400 cases, a 300% increase since this time last year. I mean, that's extraordinary. I think we had 1,300 cases, 5,400 now where people, law enforcement and citizens who are starting to say, you know what, I'm seeing the signs. That's what a red flag is. A red flag goes up. That's a warning sign. It's a warning sign, whether it's in a school, it's a workplace, community, social media, you see something, they say, that's just not right. And we now have enough evidence of people telegraphing often what they're going to do. So red flag allows us to not solve a crime after the fact, but to prevent the crime. So that's 5,400 cases because we got tough. We said, what can we do to help our localities and our state police by mandating it? That when these circumstances arise, you must seek a red flag order. We have to continue educating our judges. Some are very cooperative and some have not been. So I'm tackling that angle as well. But the 300% increase in 1 year is extraordinary. We also raised the age to purchase a semi-automatic weapon to 21, so we don't have teenagers like happened in Buffalo, being able to go out and legally buy a gun on their 18th birthday. How insane was that? Then they drive down to Pennsylvania, buy a magazine that allows them to have high capacity, create an illegal gun because they could buy the base of it legally. That's got to stop. It stopped here. And we also launched the first in the nation, which President Biden has recognized, the first time in the nation that neighboring states, I have 9 states that view themselves in partnership. We had meetings here launched it a year ago. And they'll meet again in February. They meet regularly, where they share data. We're talking about sharing data, but saying, okay, where are the guns coming from? Where are they going when they get here? And how do we stop them? That level of coordination was non-existent before. And we also tripled our investments in the violence disruption programs, which are community-based. You get the money in the hands, and many times these are people who had their own encounters with the law and the criminal justice system. They know the streets. They know the motivators that lead people to pick up a gun instead of picking up an iPad in school. So that's what we're going after here, is working at the community level, the street level as well. New York City, we have more police officers on the subways. I brought in state police and MTA police and said, we're going to redeploy you to make these subway systems safer. And also, what's so important is people are finally working together. Finally working together. There's not a competition. We're not siloed where the ATF is over here and the local government's over here and the state's over here, and we're all saying, we want to be the ones that hold the press conference and say we nabbed somebody. No, you do a press conference all standing shoulder to shoulder, and that's a scary sight to the criminals. When they know you're coordinated, you're working together, and we're not in competition as has happened in years past. So we're doubling down. That's just the first year on the job. I had an opportunity to put forth my priorities, my values in our state-of-state address, and you'll see those actually operationalized in a budget, which I'll be announcing very shortly. So let's talk about the public safety front. Gun-involved violence elimination initiative. Just call it GIVE, it's easier. Let's increase the funding for that. That goes into the high target communities, the ones we've identified. There's 20 communities across the state. We're going to increase that number. Right now it's funded at $18 million. We're going to increase it to $36 million. And this also allows us to work with the local mayors and sheriffs and district attorneys on the strategy that they want. We'll help fund you. Not every community is the same. You have a different way to approach it. We need to give you the resources, the money you need to be able to make sure that you are successful. Also, I'm redeploying our state police like never before. I mean, they are extraordinary. I want to increase the number of state police. I want to speak at more graduations. As we're seeing in many, as I speak to many mayors, they're trying to get more people. I spoke with, I was just with Mayor Walsh, and I was just with Mayor Evans in Rochester yesterday. He's talking about what else do you need? He says, we have academies, we have people coming through. Our last academy only had 5 graduates. Many years ago, when I was hiring police officers in my local government, we had so many people. We had to turn down a lot of talent. Something has shifted here. We have to get young people, individuals who want to change careers, excited about public service and how there's nothing more noble than being out there, putting on a uniform to protect your community. We have to instill that sense of responsibility to others that was always there, but is not there the way it once was. And so I want to focus on that as well. So I'm focusing on our state police. We're increasing our community stabilization units from 16 to 25 communities. They're literally on the ground. State police, like never, on the ground in high-need communities like Rochester and Syracuse. They'll be wherever you want them to be. And they're trained, they're professionals, and they're integrated with the local police departments. Again, not competing, working together. We are also, again, at the state police level, we usually do 1 or 2 academy classes a year. We're going to have 4. So get the word out. Someone wants to apply to be, part of the proud force of the New York State Police. There are great opportunities to really make a difference in your communities, and I want to continue funding those and making sure that we support them as well. Also, we're tripling our investments in funding for our prosecutors. Up from $12 million, we're going to go to $52 million to help our prosecutors across the state. You need more help. You need to do it. We want to have justice. Delayed is justice denied. So there are cases that you're bringing, but we also want to get things through the court system faster. I will say, what has been frustrating for me is that during the pandemic, the New York State court system literally shut down. There were no jury trials for 2 solid years. That meant that people who should had their day in court and be incarcerated for their crime, or those who are accused but may be innocent, are sitting there waiting. So the system has to be liberated. And that's why I've been so focused on making sure that we get it going again, because it is not sustainable to be at the rate we are. We have to get more cases through the system, and helping our courts and our prosecutors is part of that as well. So our coordination is going to continue. Again, the crime analysis centers, more investments there, all the work that they do as well. So we're also expanding this network to New York City. Now everybody's New York City, they've got everything, right? Well, they need a little bit more help, and we're going to help them as part of our proactive strategy, expand this network to New York City, because New York City is often the portal, the entryway for the drugs and the guns that are moving so quickly around the state. So we have an interest in working with our police friends in New York City to help them coordinate closely with NYPD, but then also quickly to get the data out to our local partners across the state. So the numbers, it's starting to work. I will never say we're done. As long as one person is shot in this state, we're not done fighting crime. But last year, we started all this. We talk about it. We start putting a concentrated effort on it. It's, we're not defunding police. We are really ramping up funding for police. So all that era is over. Last year, we saw a double-digit decrease in both homicides and shootings. And I commend everyone involved in this effort across the state. That is extraordinary. I mean, those numbers could be up double. And look at the trend we're on. They could be double. Instead, they came down by double-digit decrease. That's amazing. And look at the shootings. Last year, shootings dropped 15% outside New York City, down 17% in New York City compared to 2021. Buffalo, even with the mass shooting, still down 32%. Long Island is down 29%. Westchester down 17, Rochester down 13%. All give jurisdictions, and it didn't happen by accident. You don't just stand there and really hope the crime goes down. Boy, it'd be nice if it went down. You do something about it. You enter the arena. You enter the fight. And it's not what we do. It's the bravery, the courage of our law enforcement partners, and the investments that we're going to continue to make, like a task force like this. So let's just give some final numbers here so you know the data. Last year, 10,093 guns were seized by law enforcement across New York State. 10,000. That's a 59% increase from 2019, 11% over 2021. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, there's also another way of looking at it. We have a lot more guns coming in the state. So I'm glad we confiscated 10,000. We're going to continue. Those numbers are going to increase. Again, that could be 3,000. It could be 5,000. It is 10,000 guns that are out of the hands of people who would do harm to others. And I'm proud of that. But we also have so many guns flowing into our streets still. And that's what I'm focused on. And gun seizures by the state police are up 160%. From 2019 to 2020, they've gone from 528 to 1,300. So I thank our state police every chance I get. They also seized 120 ghost guns. They weren't even illegal before we changed the law. 85% increase. So here's what we need to do. Work on programs that work. Focus on supporting our local police departments. Focus on supporting all of our crime analysis centers. Finding what else is going on in other parts of the country. Is there any other community that's finding another path that's working? So we're not, this is New York. Most of them want to see what we're doing, and this is state of the art. Nobody's doing what we're doing here. But I'm always going to be humble enough as a governor to say that someone else might have an idea that we need to also adopt here as well. So I want that to continue. My team is laser focused on what's happening, not just here, but in other countries as well. We'll always be at the forefront of the effort to protect our citizens from crime. And whether that means the hotspot policing, sort of some new technologies to identify where shots are occurring, deploy police there the second a shot is identified, focus deterrence, as well as the street outreach. So that's the future of crime fighting here in the state of New York. Just getting warmed up. Let the criminals know. Put them on notice. You're not welcome here in the state of New York. If you're going to commit a crime or harm another individual, pick up a gun and use it in furtherance of a crime, you will be stopped. You will be stopped. And that is our commitment. And to all of you on the front lines who keep us safe every day, my heart's full of gratitude, especially those who are literally in harm's way when you go out in those streets. So to mayors and leaders, please go back to your police departments, to areas where they feel unappreciated and wonder why they get up and do what they do. There are people walking this earth still alive because of their courage and their willingness to do this for their fellow citizens, and I will never take that for granted. Thank you very much. We'll pull up our mayor, Kathy Sheehan. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for being such a great partner.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Governor. And we are just so grateful to you for your leadership, for your recognition that we have to focus on what works and what we know works. And there were a lot of things that happened during the pandemic that did hinder our ability to build on what we know works. And this investment that you are proposing to make in your 2023 budget will literally save lives. And for that, we are really grateful, because as a GIVE community, we know that when we're able to identify individuals who are at risk of being shot or who are likely to pick up a gun, that when we make those interventions, that we can change a person's trajectory. We can at least try to change the trajectory of a bullet. And GIVE is about making sure that we are laser focused on those who are causing harm in our community, but it's also about lifting up the other opportunities that exist, and that includes the workforce development that you support, a lot of the programs that are here to help to ensure that we are putting people on a different path. And in our community, that's critically important. And with this crime analysis center here, I think, what you said is just so true. When those who are doing the wrong thing see us working together, we get their full attention. And Chief Hawkins has been laser focused on telling people in this community, if you commit a violent crime, we will find you, we will arrest you, and we will make sure that we do everything we can to help prosecute the crime that you've committed. And we've done that. And we've done that because of the Crime Analysis Center, because of my partners in Schenectady and Troy, and I want to give a shout out to Mayors Madden and McCarthy, because if they didn't also support these efforts, we wouldn't be as successful as we are. But it works. And so, Commissioner Rosado, thank you so much for your leadership here. Thank you to all of the law enforcement, the district attorneys who are in this office. When we work together, we know it works, because the numbers were going down when we were doing these things. And so it is an opportunity now for us to regroup, to continue to fight the crimes that we're fighting, but to also bring that hope and optimism to our communities. Because our communities need to know that we care, that we want every neighborhood to be safe, and that all of us are working together to do that. And Governor, with your budget and with what you are doing, we are on that road, and people are feeling more optimistic than ever. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our program.
Heads up, I'm back. Watch out. Again, once again, we are not talking about football until next season. Okay, that is an off topic that will not be entertained. So thank you for coming here today, and I think you hopefully are impressed with what is going on here, using resources and technology to get the message out. You know, we are not going to allow people to violate our laws and commit crimes and hurt other individuals, and we're finding many, many ways to address it. And our investments in this Crime Analysis Center is one of our many ways, one of the many tools we have, and so I'm really proud of the work they're doing here, and I was glad we had a chance to showcase it to all of you who will cover it beautifully. Thank you.
Governor, you mentioned getting the court system back up and running. Obviously, right now, there is a situation with the Court of Appeals nominee for Chief Judge. What is going to happen next on that? What's the roadmap for you?
Well, the court system is running. I mean, what I'm talking about is the $3 billion system where literally trials are not being held for 2 years because of COVID. So I'm very focused on that. With respect to next steps, you know, it's been less than a week, and I have an opportunity to evaluate all my options.
I mean, even if you were to file a lawsuit and succeed, most analysis or senators will say that there aren't the votes to pass that. So why try to go the lawsuit route if you decide to, when it's pretty unlikely you'd get the votes?
Well, you're jumping ahead in your own analysis. You're making an assumption, which I have not stated to be factual, that we're going to go down a certain path. Okay? I would recommend you don't do that, because you'll all know everything you need to know in due process and due time. But as the governor, it is my prerogative to do what's best for the people of the state of New York after thoughtful analysis and consultation, and I assure you that is my guiding star, is to do what's best for the people of New York.
Is a lawsuit an option then, at this point for you?
Option, there's 1,000 options, I'm sure. I mean, I'm
Lawsuit against the Senate, one of the
You're
options
saying-
that you're considering right now.
you're saying that is an option. I'm telling you, I'm looking at all options.
The Senate rejected your nominee in the Judiciary Committee last week, and you said that you're still looking at your options. How long should the state go without a Chief Judge, as you are analyzing your options, as opposed to, you know, accepting the Senate's recommendation and putting forth a new nominee for them to confirm?
Accepting a committee's recommendation.
So
You
then
might want to
how long
correct
should
the
the state
record
go without
on
a
how you
chief judge?
describe that. You're saying correct a committee's recommendation.
Then how long should this?
So what I would say is, I do think that the senators were aware that there's a very lengthy process, one that got us to this point, because starting from square one, it has to go out to anybody in the state of New York who wants to qualify. They have to go through a lengthy screening process. Then there's an analysis by all the bar associations, you know, from New York City, New York State, Women's Bar, everybody. And then there has to be a recommendation from a commission that recommends down to 7. Then there's a timetable for the governor to select in that time frame. Then there's a time frame involved for the Senate to act. So I think that was also out there, that they knew that there would not be, you know, if they, you know, went a certain path after the Senate acts, that, you know, it's a lengthy process. But I'm focused on doing what's right for the people of the state in this space, and that's all I'm going to say on it, because there's no more elaboration required. I'm going to do what's best for the people of New York. Thank you.
Just very quickly, I mean, you don't accept that the full Senate acted, so therefore your nominee is still Justice LaSalle. You could withdraw his nomination right now and not go through the entire process and choose one of the other 6 highly qualified people from that original list. The Court of Appeals has not announced a vacancy. By all purposes, we're still in the same list of candidates that the commission had approved. So you could right now withdraw your nomination, say the Senate is being recalcitrant, it is not being cooperative, but I want to do what's best for the state and pick one of these other highly qualified people from this list that's still there. Why are you not doing that right now?
I chose the best person from a list of 7. Jimmy?
Do you believe that the Senate is in compliance with its obligations under the judiciary law with respect to Justice LaSalle's nomination?
I'll let others comment on that. I believe that the Senate is the Senate.
Okay.
That's real simple. Senate equals Senate.
And is it your belief that a vacancy currently exists on the Court of Appeals?
Yes.
Yes. You do believe there's a vacancy right now?
There's a nominee. The process has not been completed. So right now, until we get action, there will be a vacancy.
So my understanding of the process is that if the nominee is deemed rejected, then the Court of Appeals must communicate to the CJN to essentially put out a new call.
Clearly, that's another parallel process that is unfolding.
Going back to public safety real quick, yesterday Republican lawmakers said that they want for bail reform, they want to give judges discretion for all offenses, not just serious ones, and they also want to implement a bail review process. Is that something that you would be on board with?
I have spoken about the fundamental premise behind bail reform. I have supported because individuals accused of low-level crimes, petty crimes, should not have to be sitting in Rikers Island for 3 years awaiting their day in court. That is the injustice that the original bail reforms sought to go after. They went very far in sweeping all crimes in that category. Last year in the budget process, despite the fact that no one thought it would be done, we got it done, so many more crimes, especially gun crimes, were now back covered under bail eligibility, where the judge has the ability to require bail or remand, stepping back. What we're talking about now, which is a thoughtful, common-sense approach, is that serious crimes, the judge should have more discretion and to be able to consider more factors than simply whether or not the individual is likely to return to court when they're required to. So we are looking at the factors that judges should consider with respect to serious crimes. I think that's the proper balance.
Thank you. Governor, switching to the healthcare crisis now, we've been reporting on extremely long wait times here in the Capital Region, many of our emergency rooms. We're talking 24 hours, 30 hours, one person saying they waited 58 hours for care. We've had hundreds of comments on this from people expressing these concerns about inadequate care and not having fast access to care. We spoke with the Department of Health, and they touted your investments and plans for this 5-year sort of workforce initiative to beef up the workforce. But we spoke with Albany Med's CEO, and he said, while he appreciates that and they would use the money wisely, they need help now. Are you aware of these wait times, and what can we do now?
I guess the question was, we have traveling nurses coming in from other states to backfill positions that are vacant. They're very expensive, and it's a hard hit for the state when it's state nurses, and it's also hard for the localities. It is a crisis. I'm not saying it's not a crisis situation. We lost so many healthcare workers during the pandemic. People are exhausted. We lost people under those circumstances. A number died because they were exposed to COVID, and there's just a frustration with those who are on. I was involved in a nurses' strike in New York City. I heard from all the nurses how exhausting their work is, and they're still reeling from, the effects of seeing so many people in their care die because of the pandemic. It took an emotional toll, and I understand that. But the crisis that has unfolded now is a shortage of healthcare workers. I recognized it a year ago. We gave also retention bonuses. No one's ever done that before. $3,000 to say, we're not just talking about we owe you a debt of gratitude. We're actually going to pay a debt and give you more resources. We were told by their leadership that would be something that would show our support for them. So we're acknowledging the problem is real. What we put in place is a way to figure out a way to get more in the system. It's not going to solve it overnight. It's not going to solve it overnight, but this has got our full attention to find out ways that we can get more people, retirees, people from other states, just bring back more healthcare workers so those wait times evaporate. We're just not there yet. But I'm committed. I'm committed.
Governor, on the bail proposal that you have, there are a list of factors that judges can consider in the law right now: domestic violence crimes, juvenile offenses, things of that nature. Is it your opinion that the least restrictive measure prevents them from considering those offenses, or is it just confusing?
That's a very thoughtful question, because we have an inconsistency in the law right now. You're absolutely right, because we did put in factors to consider: previous offenses, gun involved, violating an order of protection. We put that in last year in the budget as one more set of criteria that judges should consider. But as long as the language remains in this section of the code that says judges must use the least restrictive means to ensure they return to court, a judge now has a lot of discretion. Now, what we see is interesting. Judges upstate, by and large, and again, I shouldn't even say that because everyone wants data, but there are judges upstate who focus on those criteria, okay? Great. Judges in other parts of the state, downstate, other judges, they only look at, well, I'm bound by this. I have to follow this section of law. All I'm trying to do right now is remedy that inconsistency that exists in law. And by focusing on the serious offenses, I believe that we should be able to garner the support from people who want to protect individuals and repeat offenders who do the same thing over and over and over. If they can look at other criteria, I think this will make real progress. And so it is the inconsistency that exists in the law right now that you're talking about.
Governor, you were mentioning earlier that state police are having trouble hiring people. Now, some have speculated that anti-police sentiment has something to do with people not wanting to enter law enforcement. So with that in mind, what do you think about this proposal to repeal qualified immunity? State lawmakers are starting a new push today. Do you support it?
You know, we have a crisis in healthcare workers, trying to attract more teachers, and also an area you do not want to have a shortage is on our law enforcement, the ones who protect us, who keep order. And again, you can have the right balance of ensuring that people's rights are protected. We're not ever going to sacrifice individual rights, but also protecting life and property is critically important to us. So I'm going to continue focusing on changing the attitudes around our law enforcement. Again, people are the outliers, those who commit an act that is reprehensible and abuses their power. I don't care if they're in law enforcement, a teacher, or a politician, anybody. There's consequences. But don't sweep the actions of a few in any profession to characterize the majority. And that's what's happened here. So we have to get at that mentality. I don't think it's pervasive. I think it's narrow. But let law enforcement know we respect them. We honor them. We want them to, join what is a noble profession. So yeah, that's what we're up against, is trying to change that. And that's an issue that, when people cross the line, someone crosses the line, there needs to be consequences. If they abuse their badge and harm someone, and there's evidence of an intentionality and all these other criteria, there have to be consequences, because otherwise you're maligning all the good ones who don't support that either. So I want to make sure that those protections remain in place. So those protections remain in place.
Do you oppose it?
I'm not going to give you a straight answer on that, because I'm going to say this. I don't support the repeal of that, no. I don't support the repeal of that. What I do support is stopping the denigration of people who take an oath to protect society. Again, they cross the line, you make an example, because communities need to know that they can trust law enforcement to not cross that line. That's important to me. And I'll happily call out anybody who does and say, you're shaming your profession, don't do that. But the vast majority are hardworking individuals who just deserve more respect than they've been getting in the last few years.
Okay, Josh, and then we gotta go.
Governor, are you satisfied with the rollout of discovery and pretrial money to district attorneys, and do you see any way to expedite those funds?
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's why we're actually adding more funding. If there's anything you want to add on that. Joe Popkin.
Thanks, Governor. So yeah, I think right now, the pretrial funding from this year, we did $20 million, and we did it direct to the counties for their certified pretrial services. So when the governor announced that at our public safety symposium in September, I believe it was within the week, all of that money had been deposited to the counties for those certified pretrial services. And then discovery, it's $40 million. It's being proposed to sustain this year. It goes to each of the counties and requires them to submit a plan to DCJS saying how they want to divide the money to cover the costs associated with discovery. And I think right now, we have dispersed almost all of it. I think we have maybe 12 or 15 counties left, but we can provide an up-to-date number on that. Thank you, Governor.
All right, I have to get over to Planned Parenthood rally. All right, thank you. I appreciate you coming out.